What's going on, brothers? What's happening? What's happening, everybody? How's everybody doing? Good evening or good afternoon, rather. Depending on, I guess, where you are in the world, it may be morning if you're on the West Coast. For those of you all who are just joining me by replay, my name is Glenn P. Brooks Jr. I'm an author, I'm a speaker, I'm a coach, and I just wanted to jump on, kind of been playing with this idea of doing Man Talk Mondays. Just been on my heart recently to press in and to add value to brothers. Nikki, what's going on? How you doing? Good to see you. Thanks for jumping in the room. Do me a favor, guys. Right at the onset, I want you to tag a brother. Share this with a man, whether he has children or not. He needs to get this message. What's going on, Shannon? Good to see you. Guys, for those of you all who are just joining the room, particularly even for my replay viewers, I want y'all to do me a favor. Share this out. What's up, nephew? Good to see my nephew Sean in the room. Good to see you guys. Y'all do me a favor. We're going to talk about three things, three deposits that every father must make in the life of his child. Three deposits of a father is what we're going to talk about. What's up, Kathy? Good to see you, sis. Guys, let me say this real quick before or as we are getting people to come in the room. I think it's incredibly important for us to share what we know. I often tell people that I don't know everything, but what I do know, I feel obligated to share. And I say that to say, I think about the book that I wrote. Let me just get it real quick. How I Got My Son Back. So when I wrote this book, How I Got My Son Back, I decided not to keep quiet about the things that I went through. And I think that everyone has a story. Everyone's story does two things. It frees you and it frees others. Diamond, good to see you. Mary, good to see you. Thanks for jumping in the room. Thanks for jumping in the room. I'm going to say that again. Your story does two things. It frees you and it frees others. And when I decided to put my story or a slice of my story in this book, How I Got My Son Back, it actually is a man's journey to fatherhood. And so when I wrote this book back in 2014, I think it was, I recognized something that most men are ashamed of what it is that they go through. And I'll tell you what I mean when I say that. Oftentimes, because of how our culture sort of nurtures us, I'll put it that way. Our culture nurtures men in a way to cause us to feel shame about what we go through. And I think that that's dangerous. And the reason why I think that's dangerous is because to the degree that you are shamed, you will not talk about what it is that you're going through. And so therefore, not only will you stay stuck, but everybody around you stays stuck. And so when I decided, and this is just me, to put my story in a book, what I did was I decided to liberate me and then liberate all of those who would read it. If you go to www.thecrcoach.com, you can find that online. I also, my wife and I created an online relationship academy designed specifically to bring people, men, women, parents, couples, people who are married, together in a room. There are 4 separate rooms that we have specific to each need so that we can allow people to share their story, to get it out. I think that unfortunately, and again, I'll go back to men, where we're concerned, guys, we never learn how to get it out. And so as a result, it stays stuffed and everybody that we come in contact loses. So today, I'm going to share 3 deposits that I think that every father has to make in order for their child to be successful. Now, here's what I do know. Some of these come by default. Some of you have to work on it. And I'm going to talk about each one. So if you're ready for me to go ahead and share this really quickly, do me a favor, say, I'm ready. I'm ready. Put that in the chat. I'm ready. I'm ready. I want to make sure I'm talking to people who are interacting with me, right? Royce, what's going on, brother? Good to see you. Good to see you, Del Royce. Good to see you, brother. My young fathers are jumping in this room. I'm proud of you guys. I'm proud of y'all. See, because here's what I know. No one taught us how to do this. I'm going to say that again. We didn't go to a school to learn how to become fathers. You didn't learn how to go to school to become a man. You didn't learn how to go to school to be able to successfully do what needs to be done concerning your children. And as a result of that, many of us are losing by default because of ignorance. Not because we don't love, but because we don't know. And there's a huge difference. I appreciate that, Jay. So Jay says, I'm ready. So 3 deposits of a father. And if you could put these in the chat as we go along to help those that would come in the room, I would greatly appreciate it. Number 1 is seed, S-E-E-D. Number 1, every father by default sows seed in the life of his child. We don't really have to talk a lot about that one, right? By default, every father must give seed to their child. Now, here's what I'm going to mess you up. Seed is designed to produce. I want y'all to hear me really, really clearly. Seed is designed to produce. When you plant a seed of any kind into the ground, its design, its nature is to produce. Here's the problem. Every seed doesn't necessarily produce, and every seed that does produce doesn't necessarily produce fullness. I'm going to say that again. Every seed that's sown doesn't necessarily produce. And then if it does, every seed doesn't necessarily produce fullness. What do I say when I say fullness? Let's go to just really, really quickly. For those of you all who've ever planted a garden of any kind, there are seeds that you can get that sometimes some of them produce and some don't. Am I right? If I'm right, say yes. If you know that to be true, say yes. There's some seeds that you get, you buy them at the store, maybe you get them out of a pack, and you go to plant them, and not all of them produce. Not all of them grow something. Am I right? If I'm right, and you know I'm right, put a yes in the chat. Here's what I'm going to promise you, is that when a man decides to plant seed, he has to ensure that that seed will produce. How does he do that? Well, naturally, I'm not talking about just physical seed. Obviously, the seed that gave birth to your child, I get that. Biologically, you didn't really have a whole bunch to do with that. That kind of came from your creator, and it just worked, right? For some of y'all, you know what I'm saying? I was in a situation where, I done been out there before, and I done produced seed that didn't yield anything, and I'm kind of grateful for that, right? So that kind of stuff you don't really have a lot to do with. It is what that is. But when I talk about deciding to plant seed that grows, you have to be really, really careful about the environment that your seeds are planted in. In order to guarantee or to help make sure that a seed properly produces, a lot of it has to do with, first of all, what are you planting in it? What kind of soil are you planting in it? There are some seeds that don't produce in certain soils. And so as a father, when I think about my child and that child being my seed, my job as a dad, the deposit that I make in my child is to plant my child, the seed, in soil that is fertile and that causes he or she to grow. I'm going to say that again. As a dad, as a father, my job is to ensure that my child gets planted into a fertile ground so that they can grow properly. And unfortunately, what happens is that because we kind of hit and miss and we just kind of scatter seed and we just kind of just toss it wherever it goes, we don't know where the seed went. I'm speaking metaphorically on purpose. I want y'all to catch the gist of this. And because of that, fellas, here's what happens. We get whatever. We get whatever. I'm not saying this to judge anybody. I've been here. I understand what it looks like to see things coming up in your children that you don't like. I know what it looks like. Both my children are grown. My youngest is 24. My daughter is 32. She'll be 33 here real soon. And I know what it's like for you as a father to see things sprout up in your children that you're not particularly proud of, or you don't want to see grow, or it's something that did not come from you, or you didn't intend for that to happen. And I'm going to put it back on us as fathers, as leaders in our home, and even particularly for my men who decide that they're going to be a father to some child, regardless of whether or not they gave birth to that child or not. Your job is to see to it that that child gets whatever they get and whatever they need. I'll put it that way. And so I just wanted you guys to, somebody do me a favor, put number one is seed. For those that are jumping on by replay, hopefully you will share this. I'll put a chat. Number one, 3 deposits of a father. Number one is seed. And I'll go ahead and keep going when I see that somebody done dropped that word. And we're trying to pay it forward, guys. So do me a favor. Somebody drop the word seed in the chat. I'll wait. Kevin, what's up? Teresa, good to see you. Good to see you guys. I'll wait. Put the word seed in the chat. Appreciate that, Kathy. Thank you so much. Listen, ladies who are on this call, do me a favor. I want you to tag a brother. I want you to tag your uncle. I want you to tag your dad. I want you to tag your son. I want you to tag any man that you know. Many of us did not learn this. No one taught us this. This is no judgment. This is just what it is. And my goal, as I learn things, I'm going to tell it. If I don't tell it by way of a book, I'm going to tell it by way of my mouth. I'm going to coach it. That's what I do. And so what I want you to understand is, fellas, we have 3 deposits that we need to make in our children. Number 1 is seed. Number 2 is time. Put it in the chat. Time. Number 2 is time. Go ahead and put that in the chat. A father must deposit time into his children if they are going to turn out to become all that they need to be. I'm going to go back for a quick second. If the seed that you plant is being nurtured and you're giving it the time that it needs, I promise you, you can offset a bunch of dumb stuff just with time. In other words, there are things that happen to kids because they just children, right? But the more time you spend with them, the more time you get the opportunity to catch stuff that's going wrong. If I take it back to planning and I take it back to, farming or whatever the case may be, many of y'all, even if you've not done this, you've seen people come through and prune the trees, right? They're cutting the trees back, not cutting them down. They're cutting them back because they recognize there's a part of that tree that's not growing properly. So it needs to be cut here and there, snipped. If it's a rose bush, if you've seen ladies out in the garden, or maybe you garden yourself, fellas, and in order for me to grow a good, strong bush, I'm going to have to cut off the limbs and the things that are not productive. I want y'all to hear me really, really clearly. The only way that you can catch stuff that's not productive in the lives of your seed, of your children, the things that you plant in them, where you plant them, is to be there. And so when I talk about time, I'm not just talking about, guys, listen to me carefully. I'm not just talking about quality time. I'm talking about quantity. I'm not talking about just quantity time. I'm also talking about quality. See, I think that we get this either or mindset with our children, and it's killing us, where we saying, hey, I can't give them this, but I'll give them that. No, I want to challenge you to give them both because they're worth it. I want to challenge you. Just because you're giving them quantity don't mean you're giving them all. Y'all need to hear me clearly. Quantity means consistency. It's something that you do regularly. Quantity time can be every single Monday afternoon I go to my child's school, every Monday. That's just for however many Mondays they're in a school year. That becomes quantity over time. Do y'all get what I'm saying? So I don't want you to think of this as what you can't do. I want you to think about this as to what you can do. Number 2 is time. We said 3 deposits of a father. Number 1 is seed, which equals life, right? That is required by default. You're going to give that just by having the child. Does that make sense? Number 2 is time. I'm not talking about just quantity. I'm also talking quality, right? I'm also helping you to understand that this is required by sacrifice. What does it take to give up time? Sacrifice. What does it take to give it up quantity-wise? Sacrifice. What does it take to give it up quality-wise? Sacrifice. In order for you to give up time, it's going to cost you something. I can't give to you something that don't cost me. Y'all got to hear me. I can't give to you that which doesn't cost me anything. In other words, if I lend you my car, it's going to cost me the use of it during the time that you have it. If I'm going to give you money, it's going to cost me the ability to spend it because I don't have it. Does that make sense? And so what I want you guys to understand is that when it comes to time, just dial it up. You're going to have to sacrifice. That's just a given. And what I want you to do, guys, listen to me carefully, is prepare and be calculative on what you sacrifice. In other words, build it in your schedule. One of the ways, and I put this out earlier, I just did a thing on if you follow my timeline, you'll see, and maybe I put it out, the schedule to go out this afternoon, but I talk about time. So if you look behind me, you'll see a board, and my whiteboards is just how I schedule out my day, right? And so my day is chock full of blocks of time. Things that I got to do, things that I got to take care of. But because I don't own time, hear me clearly, I cannot manage time because I don't own it. What's up, Dwayne? Good to see y'all. Thanks for jumping in. So when you don't own something, the way you cheat it is by manipulating it. So here's what I can do. I can manipulate time by structuring my day, by structuring what I do, when I do it, how consistently I do it, and protecting my schedule against it. Does that make sense? So that you guys know, y'all may think you see me on social media a lot, but all of that's calculated and it's scheduled. I don't just jump on social media just to be jumping on social media. I got stuff to do. I got a life. So what I do is I schedule certain things to be able to do certain things in order that I can get the opportunity to do some other things. We were spending time with family yesterday, Mother's Day. Happy belated Mother's Day to all my mothers. Here's the truth. I wasn't sitting there on social media all day while we were spending time. I captured a couple of quick photos and I went to enjoy my family. Now, after it was over, I scheduled some things out so that everybody could get to enjoy what I enjoyed, but I was present because I decided that I'm going to not only spend quantity, but I'm going to spend quality time. Guys, this is something that you learn over time. Fellas, listen to me. Nobody taught us this. Tonight, before I go to number 3, tonight, if you're in Newport News, Virginia, I encourage you to come on out, and I'll be dropping some information in my timeline about it, but I'm going to be over at Dominion Outreach. It's a church in Newport News, and we're going to be doing a talk for men, specifically for men, talking about rebooting, talking about reclaiming, and talking about resetting or getting your mind right in order to be able to go and do what you need to do. Some of you all have lost some stuff because it's been stolen from you. Some of you have lost some things when it comes to your manhood because it was just never taught. And so tonight we're going to talk about that, and it's totally free. If you want to come out, that's great. If you are outside of the area, just slide in my DM your email address so that I can shoot you a link that you can join us live this evening at 7 p.m. Because, brothers, until we all decide that we're going to come together and help each other, we're not going to grow. We're not going to grow. If you agree with that, heart it up. If you agree with that, like it up. We're not going to grow until we all decide we're going to come together and we're going to do what we can to open our mouths, to share our story, to be available to others, and to make sure that they are hearing and seeing what it is that needs to be done, particularly with our children. And so I'm going to encourage you. We're getting ready to go to number 3, 3 deposits of a father. If you're ready for number 3, put number 3 in the chat. If you're ready for number 3, put number 3 in the chat. I ain't going no further until somebody put a number 3 in the chat. I can wait. Because see, here's what I'm not going to do. I'm not here to just share. I'm here to interact. You get what I'm saying? I'm not here just to tell y'all what I think. I'm here to make sure that you're receiving what it is that I'm saying, because the truth of the matter is, unless that happens, then this is a waste of my time and your energy. So do me a favor, drop a 3 in the chat if you're ready for number 3. I appreciate that, nephew. Thank you. So number 3 is character. Put that in the chat. Character. Delroyce, put that in the chat. Character. The 3 deposits that a father must put in their child is, number 1, obviously by default, their seed. Number 2, this comes through sacrifice. Time. Time is number 2. And number 3, character. That when I talk about character, I'm talking about your values, what you value. A lot of times you guys are late. Listen to me. If you find yourself late everywhere you go, you find yourself always running a little bit late. That's because somewhere along your life that was modeled for you. And that became something that you either valued or didn't value. In other words, I know people that have this mindset to say, look, I'll get there when I get there. That's just the way it is. I'll get there when I get there. Look, the party will start when I show up. The problem is that doesn't work in the corporate world. The problem is that doesn't work in the lives of children. Sometimes there are things for your children you need to be on time. The game starts at 7 o'clock, not 6:30, not 7:30, and if you're not careful, you will miss it. The recital starts at 6 p.m., not 6:30, not 7 o'clock. If you get there late, you're going to miss it. Good to see you, Alicia. Thanks for jumping in the room. So here's what I'm going to tell you. In order to be able to have great character, you're going to have to develop some kind of consistency in your life, applying that what you want to get out. So you can't decide that you want your children to be something that you're not. That's what I'm getting to. I don't get to require of my children something that I'm not willing to show them first. I don't get to do that. Now, here's the deal. I get that many of us got to get a pass because we was just ignorant. We didn't know. But here's where I'm going to challenge you. After today, there's some things you won't be able to use that card no more. And I'm going to take that pass from you. You now know. And so here's what I'm going to tell you. I'm speaking to my fathers. And I'm passionate about this, guys, because we are losing. We are losing. Our children are losing. And when we see them coming up and they're not winning in life, I have to begin to ask myself, what is it that I didn't do, and what can I do? What is it that I did do? What is it that I didn't do? And what is it that I can do? See, because as long as you draw a breath, there's still time. I want y'all to hear that clearly. I don't want y'all to hear this, well, you know what, they grown now, it's over. No, if I took that approach, then that means that when my children turned 18, I'd have just disappeared out of their life. That's crazy. That's some ghetto logic if I ever heard it. When they're 18, they out of here. Where'd you get that from? Who taught you that? Because it's erroneous. It doesn't make any sense. Children are going to need you until the day they get in the box. It's a different kind of need. My grown children don't need me like they did when they were 5. But I promise you, they need me. I moved from Atlanta to Hampton Roads specifically because not only did my in-laws, but my children needed me. They were grown, but they needed me. They needed their mother. They needed us to be family. They needed the community of all of us to come together. They needed that. I needed that. And I'm telling you right now, guys, what you don't understand is that you have an obligation, even past 18, to do what needs to be done for your children. Because if not, they many times won't get it because don't nobody give a flip about them like you. Y'all hear me say that? Nobody gonna care about your little nappy-headed grown rugrat like you do. So if you don't step up and become the advocate, if you don't step up and decide to relearn some things, I get it. There's a lot of things I didn't know. And so I had to go on a quest. If I was going to change what it was that I valued, I had to change what it was that I was putting in my head. And so now, latest book I'm reading right now, it teaches you how to become that particular piece of the puzzle that makes all the difference. LeBron James is the linchpin on his team. Does that make sense? Fathers, you are the linchpin in your family. And if you don't even know what a linchpin is, you need to fill your head with some wisdom. That's what I'm doing. Because here's what I know. My dad wasn't there to teach me either. So just join. Let's just kumbaya. Welcome to the freaking club. Also, you're part of 1 out of every 3 kids in America. You're growing up without your biological dad in your home. Okay, we get that. Now let's move on. What are we going to do about it? What we're going to do about it is we're going to get ourselves around people who are doing, listen to me carefully, guys, doing and executing that which you want in your own life. If you see a brother who is killing it and crushing it in a particular game and you want that in your life, I'm going to promise you, you do well to get in that person's life. You do well to get in that person's circle. I'm known to have bought dinners and lunches for people who I just want to pick their brain. Like, I'm just trying to get up with you. Like, I watched you from afar. Can I buy you dinner? Because I'm trying to learn what it is that you know. Denise, thanks for jumping in the room. Christella, I think it is. Thanks for watching. Thanks, Lisa. Appreciate it. Y'all do me a favor. Share this out. So we're going to wrap up. I'm almost done. Just wanted to share 3 deposits of a father. Number 1, we said C. What's going on, Peyton? Congratulations recently on 20 years, my friend. Y'all are crushing it over there. But I'm talking about, and Peyton, you understand this clearly, the 3 deposits of every father. Number 1 is their seed. They do that by default. That's what you give. It's called you help give birth to them, right? But the truth is that I'm talking about life. I'm talking about being purposeful about where you plant that seed, what you allow your kids to experience, that kinds of thing. That's the job and the responsibility of a father. Number 2 is time. I'm not talking about quality only, but I'm also talking about quantity. That is our responsibility to figure out that balance on how we can give both quality and quantity time. That's required by sacrifice. And the last thing we said, it takes character. The deposit that a father needs to put into their child is character, values. That comes by consistently showing up in the thing or in the area that you want your child to become. If I don't want my child to be a liar, I have to model truth with my children. If I don't want my child to be a thief, I have to model integrity with my children. If I don't want do y'all see how it goes? Now, does that mean that they don't have a free will to choose? No. But what you can say is that they did not get it here. That's all I'm dealing with, guys. You know what I'm saying? In other words, I get it. There's a culture out there influencing our kids that, quite frankly, if you're not careful, that culture will out-whoop you. It will just beat you if you're not careful. And that's a whole nother live that I can do. I can teach you how to be able to really circumvent the culture, if you will. The culture is what it is, but I can teach you how to navigate around the culture so you still get what you want. For those of you all who are in the Hampton Roads area, really want to invite you to come on out. Thanks, Dr. Beach. Appreciate you joining us. Thanks for jumping on. If you're in the Hampton Roads area tonight, I'm going to be doing a teaching with a group of brothers over with my buddy Ray Johnson, and he is crushing the game, raising up a group of men who want to do what they need to do in order to be able to make sure, guys, listen to me really carefully, to just make sure that their kids are coming up the right way. I think that unfortunately what we do, and it's easy for us to do, and I'm not blaming, I'm not doing any of that, but I'm just saying what it is. It's easier for us to just sit back and look at, well, this ain't happening and I don't have an opportunity to do this, and it's easy for us to talk about what we don't have. I want you to focus on what you do have. Listen to me. Appreciate that, Doc. Listen to me. Focus on what you got. Let's stop focusing on what we don't have. That's a given. A lot of us don't have. But here's where I make up in things that I don't have. I have community. And I have community because I developed community, not because people decided to say, can I be a part of your community? I showed up. I added value, I loved on people, and therefore I got it in reciprocal. And so therefore I built community over time. Community for myself, for my family, for my children. And so fathers, if you want to thrive, if you want your children to thrive, do me a huge favor. Recognize the 3 things that you need to deposit in them. Number 1 is seed, meaning life. You're going to have to nurture the seed, the life that's in them. Number 2, time, both quality and quantity. And the last thing is character. And I'm talking about values. Stop with the whole, what happened to them? Stop with the whole, I don't understand. No, you understand. There's a part you played, own that. And then there's a part the culture played. Fix that. There's a part you played. I have to own the parts that I played and what I did not give my kids. I own that. But here's what I don't get to do. I don't get to sit and blame that. Okay, it is what it is now. What do we do? Now we get to now play offense. Here's where we get to do something. And if that means I got to put in my head information, if that means I got to read, if that means I got to sit down with brothers, if that means I got to write a book, I could just keep on going and just pulling out books and carrying on all the things that I need to do because I am going to change the direction of my life because I'm in control. I'm in control. I'm in charge. Make sense? No more excuses. I love y'all. If y'all are enjoying this new thing that I'm trying to figure out what we're going to do with it called Man Talk Mondays, just drop me a note. If you are in the area or out of the area and you want to take part of the live training that I'm going to do with a group of men in Newport News, but you're outside of the 757, slip me your email address in my DM and I'll put you in a Zoom conference call where you can get that live by way of video and you can jump in and we can talk about some things I think will revolutionize not only your life, but the men that you come in contact with. Guys, I'm going to jump out of here. I got a coaching call coming up in 2 minutes. At the end of the day, I'm going to promise you this, hashtag, we all need some help.